Today on Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast. We have Moonstar's first ever guest, Chris Mayek. This interview will be split into 2 parts.
We also watch and discuss the 5th episode of Sailor Moon.
Scent of the Monster, Chanela will steal your love.
Hello, welcome back to Moonstar. Normally this is the part of the podcast where we would run through a bunch of announcements, but this week we are going to keep things short and simple because we will be sharing the first half of our interview with Chris Mayek. He is a Sailor Moon fan and a collector of animation cells and sketch sets. That's not all we talk about though, so stay tuned to get the full story. But first, we must watch the episode. Let's roll the watch through. Hit it! Well, it's definitely cool getting to see the original Japanese intro, that's for sure. I always love this one. The little silhouette of her in the moon with Luna and her pigtails, flowing in the wind looks so cool. And they jump away. And then you've got the different colored rose petals, or I guess roses that explode into rose petals, whatever you want to call it. It's like this twisting cool thing. Then there's the part with the masks that actually got used in the Deke version. Like, they took some parts of this intro and then mixed in much of their own clips and stuff, as everybody knows. The part with the Mercury, Mars, and Sailor Moon floating with the veils is still here. I know a lot of these openings pretty well because in the beginning of the anime music video days, creditless intros were used a lot because you got typically footage that's not used in the show. So it's sort of special, and there's usually, I think they put more effort into the intro because it's sometimes something that will be it is something that will be seen over and over and over again, and they know that. It's almost their own little anime music video, I guess. I guess that is what it is. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. The new voice actress because I'm watching the new dub from Viz Media on Hulu, by the way, for this one, since it was not dubbed by Deke. I'll be honest, her voice is a lot better than I remember from the first time I watched this. I think I was a little bit like, it's not what I'm used to, but I'm gonna do my best to give this a really fair shake because I want to enjoy it. It's just another version of something I already love, right? And I think her voice is I'm hearing her, I think, trying to sound a little bit like Terry Hawks or Hawking. I need to learn her last name. Terry Hawks. She was the original Sailor Moon, who I personally think did the best. Oh, her bad dream. Is that tuxedo? Okay, that's why I'm not used to this footage, because it wasn't. That's right. Oh, the rose is so glittery and pretty. She has hard eyes for him, of course. That stupid Shingo. He sounds a little, old. Well, okay, not old, but I guess it's more of just a different take on Shingo. I can't, with Luna not being a British lady, though, she's, I don't know. Moon pudding, that's cute. But part of it, for me, is I think, with the two, Luna and Serena in the Deke dub, I think the voice actresses had a great chemistry that came through. And also it seemed very mentor-mentee. Luna was kind of her Miyagi a little bit, And so far in this, it does feel like they're a little more equal, maybe, which I don't know how much I like that because Luna is supposed to be the celestial feline guardian of the galaxy, where she still remembers everything that happened. She kind of is almost like Usagi's keeper of memories in a way. And having them converse so far, and to me what feels more like just buddies, or almost like Luna is just another one of the scouts or something, that I think that dynamic is what I'm missing from it. And I think part of what created that so well was the sort of more mature, and maybe not even was the accent, maybe it was just that for some reason that actress sounded a little more mature, a little more knowledgeable versus the one now who just sounds like another one of the girls, you know? And it's just a different approach, but I think I prefer the other way still. Melvin is talking about getting stuck inside of a purse as a baby. An alligator handbag. Alligator handbags, wow. I haven't heard or thought about something like that in such a long time. I forget this is one of the few Shingo or Sammy based episodes because I guess they didn't see him as an important character in when they Americanized this for some reason. And I want to say this isn't the only episode that focused on him that got cut out. Like right now he's having a cute little storyline with this girl who's got some blue ribbon in her hair and she's like, there's like this new pet store, let's go be cute and stuff and go shopping. It's called Perfume, Pet Shop Perfume. Oh, okay, I've watched this before in the Japanese subtitled at some point. The whole thing was that these pets are really cute, but they also smell really good, which, I mean, anyone who owns pets knows that as adorable and lovely as they are, you're sort of in a constant battle with, you know, fur shedding, cleaning up after them. Like, it's part of like everything in life, it has a price, right? And the price of the cuteness is that. So, of course, this is a perfect Negaverse ploy, right? They take something that is just the way it is, and then they take the price off of it, right? So, oh, it doesn't smell bad, you don't have to do much to take care of it, it's the perfect pet. But then, what's the catch? It, I think, hypnotizes them? What's it doing? You can pay me whenever you want, said no one who wanted good stuff for anyone. Oh, there's a little puppy following them, it's so cute. But it's getting ignored, and now it's all sad. They're like zombies now. Jedi's taking their energy. I will say, because I've been watching, obviously, on VHS, this is a much crisper video quality. You know, it's fine with me that the VHS don't match it, honestly. Like, there's some charm in what is, you know, the imperfections. But if I were going to make an anime music video, I would probably look for one of the newer releases just for the actual video quality. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to that type of thing. Sammy just kicked Luna. What the? And Usagi's crying on the floor because he kicked Luna. Of course, what an asshole. Okay, so they cut the episodes, I guess, where people were like really being dicks. I love her parents just being like, oh, what a lovely new pet. Absolutely no idea what's going on here. We're just adults living our adult lives. Continue on, strange children fighting aliens that we don't know about, probably, but maybe we do. Sammy's being a little butthead, of course. He's so obsessed with this thing. And it's like, I mean, it's not even that cute, honestly. It's like, if you haven't seen this, imagine a long-haired, okay, so like collie dogs, like, you know how they have long hair? Imagine that style, but on a bunny, and then the teeth are longer than normal, and their eyes are like red, and then just turn it pastel, right? It sounds kind of cute, but after looking at it for all of like, how far in are we? 5 minutes, if that? I don't know. I love their little like transition between commercial breaks though. That was so cute. Also, Chanel, it's like, this is clearly supposed to be like designer bags, people who put too much emphasis on having nice things, or maybe highlighting how you're paying for the brand, not the quality necessarily, type thing. In some one of those. Miss Haruna is my, as an adult, is like my secret hero in this series for putting up with all of the nonsense and still showing up every day predominantly in a good mood. Who would bring one of their, like, I guess it's a thing now, right? The emotional support animal thing. So I don't want to say much about that, but I guess fine. You can bring your pets places if you need to, but I wouldn't like be shoving people if they're not enjoying your pet. No shade to whoever is doing Molly or Naru's voice in this, because she had the biggest shoes in the world to fill, as we all know. But it literally sounds like they told her, I want you to find the most unplaceable sounding North American, like, standard accent you can and stick to that, because what happened last time was lightning in a bottle and we will never be able to recreate that. That is the only explanation for why she sounds this way. Or she knew the level that she was stepping into and was like, you know what, if I try to be her, this is just going to sound ridiculous. So they're not going to like it no matter what I do. I'm just going to deliver. I don't know. I don't want to. I'm just kidding. It's really not bad. She's doing a fine job. It's just no one will ever be Molly, you know? I don't know how much, like, in the first season, their relationship it's sort of like, I don't know how much I ship her and Tuxedo as an adult, because he's sort of a big butt to her all the time, and she's kind of annoyed by him all the time, and then they end up getting together, right? And I don't know how much I don't know. That's not my favorite type of relationship, I guess. I prefer them each individually, I think. But who knows? This is only episode 5. Maybe I'll eat my words by the end of this, which is fine. Words can be tasty. Oh, that's kind of cool. Also, I think this is like supposed to be, I think a lot of this first season and much of Sailor Moon in general is supposed to show that most people who are acting out or hurting others in some way are doing it for almost always for some reason. Not like, you know, some crazy pet is making them do it, but the pet is representative of something bigger, right? Like depression or anxiety or an undiagnosed mental illness or a diagnosed mental illness that they haven't found the right treatment for yet, or whatever it is. Maybe they suffered loss and they're acting out because of grief, because grief makes people do, you know, self-destructive and confusing things, right? I think the sort of message here was supposed to be like, learn how to recognize when something like that is going on in somebody you care about, and figure out how to step back enough to, I guess, protect yourself until they figure out whatever it is they need to figure out, but still maintain enough connection to where it's not, you're not vilifying the person and you're not severing things completely, right? That's just my takeaway from it. Maybe I'm grossly overthinking that, but that seems to be, I guess, just putting all of this through my weird educator brain now, I can't help but that seems to be the message here, I think. Because people now, especially in culture how it is today, are so quick to see someone mess up and they're like, oh, that's their character for literally all time because they made this mistake perhaps once or twice or more or a couple times. And it's like, okay, but people literally grow by making mistakes. I'm sure a lot of people who watched Sailor Moon growing up also watched The Magic School Bus. And the tagline for that show was, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. And everybody trusted Miss Frizzle. We learned so much from her, right? That message, that we need to apply to today, because we don't live in a society where people can do that anymore. And that's just sad because we're creating, I don't know, I don't want to, back to the show, cutting myself off. I gotta focus on the fun. I'm not used to this Yoma because I've only seen this a few times. She's morphing into, so it was a human, the owner of the pet shop morphed into this sort of What I'm getting is like a humanoid lizard with big bushy brown hair. And Shingo and all his friends look kind of like that too. You can see the scales. It's like a teal color for their skin. And they've got claw hands. Okay, not gonna lie, I'm also watching the new season of Stranger Things right now, like the rest of the world. And it's kind of like when you know that one kid who like did that thing and he's in the forest and there's the clock doing its weird thing, which, by the way, that clock being in the coffin instead of up the second time we see it looks so stupid. I'm sorry. I know that was supposed to be scary, but I was like, this is the dumbest. Like, anyway. But it looks very similar to all those people who were like pointing at him and being like, murderer, murder. You know what I mean. You saw it. Moon Tiara magic time. So, okay, for the fight, Shingo and his little buddies chased her around. She dodged them, and now Moon Tiara. Whoop. Oh, this is Moon Tiara Stardust! And it turns white in this and swivels around above them and drops sprinkles of magic, and they're no longer possessed. Now she has to run away. The thing is following her. Okay, so the fight's not over. I knew Moon Tiara Stardust was a thing. Oh no, it got her with its tail. Okay, Luna's told her about the weak point. This was... I feel like... Oh, she just threw her tiara from... That was a cool animation. So she was stuck in the tail, and she just kind of casually, like, flings her tiara with her free arm at the weak point, and then she moon dusts the bitch. A little bit similar to the crescent beam in the end of the season when Venus is having her final moment, you know, where she's kind of all wrapped up and she touches her forehead with the one hand, but she much less intense. Also, Shingo saw the fight and is like, oh my god, Sailor V. He thinks it's Sailor V, and he's like coming and trying to get her autograph. This is so cute. Oh, she told him because she said his name, and he's like, how did you know my name? And she's like, I'm Sailor Moon. I know everything, like Santa. And she goes, I'm going to tell you to do something for me. I need you to be nicer to Luna, and she'll make you happy. Oh, you have to be nice to your cats. They do make you happy. That is the secret to cats, by the way. If anyone is listening and is a dog person or doesn't understand cats, dogs are sort of... I'm going to pause the show here because, okay. So just to finish my stupid rant. Dogs are great. I love dogs, but they have this, the best thing I can compare it to in humans is sort of codependency, where even when they're treated poorly, unfortunately, not all the time, but a lot of the time, they will still show their owner love. Whereas with cats, if you are not empathetic and attentive towards a cat, and that's the other thing, each cat has a very specific personality and likes specific things, right? So cats take a little bit more attention, a little bit more intention to build a relationship with. And I think a lot of people are just really busy in their own lives, and I think it's hard for people to slow down enough for cats to build a safe relationship with them. And so if you're someone who's listening who hasn't had a nice relationship yet with a cat, my recommendation to you is to just, when you're not sure what to do one weekend, go to a local shelter and just sit in one of the rooms and be like, I just want to visit with some of your cats, and they should let you. And just sit in there quietly and just be like, I'm just going to be here. Bring a book and read a book in the cat room for like 20 minutes. And when you're calm around them, they will start to come towards you, and you'll start to see their different personalities. And you'll see the ones who will come right up to you and who are interested in you right away. And then other ones who are more scared of you, who need a little time to warm up to you. And that's when you can, So anyway, I love cats. I've always loved cats. And Sailor Moon, I think, is one of those, probably a part of the reason why. I don't know. I also grew up with them. But anyway, that is it for the watch through. Anyway, that is it through the watch through of episode 5 of the dub, Scent of a Monster. Chanela will steal... What is it called? Why won't it tell me the whole thing? Tell me the whole name. Scent of a Monster, Chanela Will Steal Your Love. And that is the second of the cut episodes from the deep dub. So that is why we were not watching on a VHS today and we had to return to Hulu. That's it for the watch through. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Stay tuned for the first part of our interview with Chris Mayek after these messages. Sunshine Farm Collectibles is more than just a curated virtual shopping experience. In addition to providing a unique selection of vintage anime and video game collectible items, we also offer several services. Here are just a few of the services we offer.
Virtual music lessons. Whether it's for your own enrichment, or for your child, there's never been a better time to start virtual music lessons than now. Lesson options include piano, violin, viola, cello and voice. Lessons start at $30 per class. Discounts available for multi-class students.
Life coaching. Sometimes life puts more on our plate than we can handle, and we need an impartial party to help us sort through the mess and get to the good stuff. Sessions start at $50 per hour. Discounts available for bulk bookings. For more information about any of the services mentioned, or to see a full list of the services we offer, please visit our website, www.sunshinefarmcollectibles.com. Welcome back to Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast.
Oh, hello?
Hi.
Hey, there you are. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, no problem.
So I have kind of the outline that I sent over to you, and
Right.
I'm sure. Do you mind if my video's not on? Do you care?
No, yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna kind of sort of stick to that, but I mostly just want to chat a little bit, and I kind of looked at your YouTube channel. I looked into some of the stuff you're doing. I think it's super cool. So I'm gonna have some questions for you about that and kind of
Okay.
how you got started. And yeah, are you ready to kind of just get going?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just why don't you just introduce yourself and tell everyone who's listening kind of who you are, what you do, and set yourself up a little.
Yeah. My name is Chris Mayek. I'm 24 and I'm outside of the Minneapolis area in Minnesota. Since last summer, or no, 2 summers ago, July 2020, I've been virtually interviewing mostly voice actors for anime and video games, but a number of different people in the acting and music industry on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Chris Mayek. And my main hobby outside of interviews is collecting production artwork and animation cells for anime back when that's how anime was predominantly created. So that's pretty much a condensed version of who I am.
Awesome. So for people who might not know that are listening, what is an animation cell? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so prior to around, I don't know, in Japan, they stopped around 2002 or three. Anything that was animated had to be hand drawn and hand painted frame by frame. And the studios then animated in a flip book style way. So any anime from the 90s or before that, or even most of Inuyasha was all traditionally animated. It was all hand drawn. And when the studios were finished using all the frames, cells, the sketches, they let people take them, or they just gave them away for people to keep or sell or whatever. And that's what cells are. And I have a number of sketch sets from Sailor Moon, from iconic moments in S and Super S specifically. Yeah, it's a amazing hobby, and it's not for everyone, but it's great to get into if you can.
I remember growing up. I'm a little bit older than you. I'm in my 30s.
Okay.
So back in the day, in the early days of the internet, when we were still on AOL chat rooms and stuff, cells were sort of like the forbidden fruit of the anime world a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Where it was just they were one of those things where, oh, if you knew what an anime cell was, you were really in the know. And then if you had one, oh my gosh, so they were like this really sort of prestige thing almost among the online anime community back in like the early 90s and early aughts. And I think it's cool because I know you have a lot, right? You said you have the Sailor Moon from Sailor Moon S and Super S. So that's season 3 and 4. And this is the original first creation because when they made Crystal, they would have used a different system, correct?
Right. Yeah, that was all completely digital.
And so for when they make anime digitally, is there anything at all similar to cells that they use maybe just to like rough draft kind of things, or is that totally dead?
No, it's not totally dead. It depends on the animation studio. I know for a fact that Ufotable, who does Demon Slayer, they still hand draw every frame, but nowadays animation studios don't. They very rarely distribute them outside of the studio because nowadays animation studios, not just in Japan but everywhere, know how valuable production artwork and cells are. Back then, they used to just look at it as excess work that was left over from production. So yeah, it's not totally dead, but you can't easily get anything from modern anime anymore.
And I guess also it's hard to compete with the speed of digital versus hand drawing and the price probably of production and all of that. Something I have thought and noticed in older, or I guess vintage anime versus more contemporary, is that sometimes I feel more heart in the older stuff because you can actually see the amount of time and energy and effort that went into drawing each animation cell, versus now I think there's still heart in the storytelling and a lot of the voice acting and the designs, but doing it digitally, there's just a little something missing. I don't know if you feel that or not, or if you've noticed anything like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, there's just something about speaking to Sailor Moon specifically, the original series, just those, not even just the characters, but just a number of the backgrounds in the original series are just incredible, and they still look amazing today. And yeah, that's just never going to compare to anything modern.
It's such a bummer, but I think what I'm hoping anyway is, everything is cyclical and stuff comes back around, right? We're kind of starting to get into this 90s boom a little bit now, which I'm loving being from that time. But I think what I'm hoping is people will sort of start to see what we're talking about and start realizing that the fastest way isn't necessarily the best way all the time. And if you want to create art that is going to stand up like the original Sailor Moon does for decades and probably centuries, it's going to have to be made the slow way, because the other stuff is all just going to fall away and not feel special, in my opinion, anyway. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Going back to the cells, though, what was your first cell that you ever found, and got a hold of?
Well, my very first one was way back when I didn't really even fully know what they were. I actually started when I was in 7th grade, so that would have been 2010. And there's a horror anime from the late 90s that I really love, but not a whole lot of people know, called Nightwalker. And there was a really cheap $30 sell of it on eBay. And I told my mom, and I convinced her, and she got it for me, like what I paid her, but it was obviously her account. And then once I got it, because I still didn't know fully what they were, I cut it up to fit a frame, and then it ended up being trash, and I had to throw it out later. But I mean, thank God it was only $30.
Right.
Yeah, so that was my very first.
That's not bad, $30. I remember most of them being much more than that on eBay, so that was a pretty good steal. What would you, if you're saying, let's say you're looking for a specific anime that you want to sell from,
Do you go into searching per scene? Like, are you that specific about what you collect, or is it kind of you just see what's out there and take what you can find?
Oh, well, definitely by this point, with how long I've been doing it, I started getting serious about it when I was 18. Yeah, well, and I'm very specific, not just with Sailor Moon, but for anything that I look for. I don't ever buy anything if I can't identify it in an episode or a movie first. With Sailor Moon, I only focus on um, production sketch sets that Ikuko Ito episodes that she did, which I'm not
Okay.
sure. Do you know who she is?
No, can you tell me a little bit about her?
Okay, yeah. So Ikuko Ito was probably the single most iconic, memorable animator to work on Sailor Moon. She was the lead character designer of S and Super S, but she worked on it since the beginning. For example, the last two episodes, or no, episodes 124 and 125 of S are completely in her art style. Almost all of the transformation and attack sequences for every character is in her art style.
Okay.
Most of the opening sequences for every season are, and like every Laserdisc VHS cover from season 3 and 4. So she's like a
She's the
goddess.
one. When
Yeah,
you say season 3 and 4, I think I know the art you're talking about, where if you're looking at like, because they did the VHS releases too, which I have like a weird obsession with.
yeah,
And with the edited and the uncut version, I want to say her art is the uncut version, if you know what I'm talking about, where it usually it's like instead of it just being one of the scouts, it's like Mercury and Jupiter together, and then it
yeah,
kind of, you know what I'm talking? Yeah, okay. And then that makes sense to me that that's all the same person, because every part that you mentioned has always stuck out as, oh, I think they spent a lot more time on this. So I
right.
guess you know what I'm saying. What is real quick, just talking about the transformation sequences in Sailor Moon in the original series? Everybody who's a fan knows they reuse a lot of the different parts of it, and then for anyone who's not Usagi, they kind of take the same movements and just throw different colors and backgrounds onto
Right.
them. Something that, I mean, I love the show, and it's hard for me to, I don't consider this a complaint, but if I were going to say, hey, if you could do one thing differently, I wish that they would have put a touch more budget into everyone else's sequences when they level up, to just give them a little more like of a difference, even if it's not longer. You know what I mean? That's like the only thing I would say. But do you have anything like that regarding Sailor Moon, where you're like, if there's just one thing they could have changed, what would you have done differently?
Well, honestly, it kind of goes back to Ito, and not just her, but a lot of the team. Her and Kunihiko Ikuhara, who was one of the directors of several episodes. Her and Ikuhara and a bunch of other animators left after Super S, so none of them worked on Stars. So my biggest wish is that they had stayed till the end, because seeing seeing parts of Stars animated in Ito's art style would have been even more amazing for her to continue her work. So
Yeah.
that's my only complaint.
Do you know why she left?
Yeah, it's because Toei didn't treat her or any of them very well. For example, when they were working on the R movie, the entire team that was working on that was Toei rented out apartment, like a really condensed apartment that was really cramped, and they made them overwork, and Ito got appendicitis as a result of that. And
Oh my,
so even though she stayed past that, obviously her relationship with Toei was never really great. And that's what I'm sure plenty of other things happened internally people don't know about. But that's I think what started everything that made her and a lot of other people leave after Super S, unfortunately.
that's understandable. And I think I can't think of specific examples at the moment, but I want to say I've heard similar stories from the 90s animation world. And I believe in the first episode of Sailor Moon, even, If you remember, there was an episode about animators with the special pencils. Yeah, I think that was almost them saying we're getting overworked here a lot of the time, and it's creating a huge stressful environment. In my mind, I can almost see that being the storytellers putting that in there intentionally, because they would know that they live that world.
Right.
That's a real shame that happened, because you can see the talent in her art. And it's one of those, to me, it's one of those things where, like you said, it's just no shade to any of the other, animators that worked on the series, but the stuff she worked on is just slightly elevated, so I can see why you chose her to focus on. And just a note to anyone else out there who's collecting, I like that you said that, because I think when you first start collecting stuff, it's easy to be like, I want all of the Sailor Moon stuff or whatever. And you kind of cast a wide net. And then you realize how that's A, not financially responsible, but also B, not realistic. And then once you start kind of focusing down your interest, it becomes more fun almost, because you start learning all these intricate details, like the story you told me about her and why she left, and when she left and all of that. And did you know that before you started doing the anime cell collecting?
No. I didn't do a deep dive on Ito and all of that background until, I don't know, within the past couple of years.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I like collecting stuff, is because it's just a way to, you always it leads me into learning something new all the time. And that's what keeps it interesting. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything about the Sailor Moon cells to you that kind of stand out compared to cells from other animes? Maybe.
Well, speaking of, because I can speak on the terminology, because the sketch sets, there's two different kinds of sketches outside of cells that are drawn first before the cells, because they base the cells off the sketches. What's drawn first, the sets that are drawn first are called Genga, which is Japanese for original picture. And what happens is some key animator that worked on the episode, there's a bunch of key animators who work on every episode of every anime. Usually they'll draw that, and then whoever the animation director of the episode is, like if it was Ito, then she would go through and draw corrections on yellow paper of what it was supposed to look like and what it ended up looking like on screen. So, for example, one of my favorite ones that I have is it's from episode 104, which is the tea ceremony episode in S.
Great episode. Just so the people who are listening, what it looks like to me through the Zoom call is a plastic covering over like you said, yellow paper, and then is that pencil or ink sketches under?
It's pencil, and the plastic it's just the sleeve that I have it in.
Oh, okay. So it's actually on, like, this is the paper. It's not. So isn't the cell on plastic though usually?
Yep, it's on ace tape.
Okay. And what if you had to explain ace tape? What is that?
It's really just sheets of plastic that you can paint on and cut, and that's how cells were done. Is then once an entire sequence was put together, then it was just animated in a flipbook way, and that's how anything animated for anime was done prior to digital.
And I think the reason they use, like you said, the clear plastic is because then they could have different layers, almost like in Photoshop, where you have your foreground, which is the character, and then the background can be a separate cell, and they can reuse the background images, and it's not, right? Isn't that kind of how it worked, where they would overlay everything?
Yep.
Okay, so that's just a little more about that. Okay, I want to ask you a little about your YouTube channel and doing your interviews and everything. Regarding that, when did you start? Like, when was your very first interview? Do you remember?
Yep. Well, what inspired everything first was April of 2020, when COVID was in the height of everything and everything had shut down, I virtually met one of my favorite voice actors via GalaxyCon, Eric Vale, who people would know as Trunks in Dragon Ball Z, Yuki in Fruits Basket, Sanji in One Piece. I liked him the most from Fruits Basket. And then after him and I had our chat, I just realized that a lot of the voice actors that I grew up with or was personally a fan of the most, I had never seen them really do interviews talking about roles that I liked them the most for. So that inspired me to be like, oh, well, I'm going to try and do this without paying for it and just see if I can make a name for myself. And then I did a few music industry people first, but my very first interview technically was another friend of or acquaintance of mine who's around my age, named Beck Nolan, who he's an actor in the Chicago area. But my first voice actor was actually Katie Griffin, who was the original Ray, Sailor Mars.
That is such a get for your first voice actor interview. Wow. I mean, for me anyway, and I'm sure people listening.
Yeah.
I've started reaching out in a similar way, I guess, how you have.
Okay.
And my first goal is the girl or the woman who did Molly from I don't know your opinions on it. You don't have to agree with me, but she made what I consider a choice in acting and she stuck to it. And I applaud that so much. And I mostly think that in my mind, when I think of the Sailor Moon deep dub differences versus the current one, that's one of the first things I think about is you think old lady British Luna and then Boston Molly in my head. So to me, I mean, I think all of the voice actors who worked on that show were immensely talented and I love all the choices they made and stuff, but those two for me are just the ones that I distinctly remember the most, you know, and then there's the other things that come down after that. Regarding doing interviews, what was something that you had to get used to when you first started doing them that was kind of challenging for you?
Biggest thing, I guess, it's with anybody really, but it's just learning not to take either rejection or just not hearing back from somebody personally, because if you let that, you know, get in your head and bang your gongs, and that's just gonna completely turn you off. And you just have to focus on not doing that and know that it doesn't mean anything. You just have to keep going and not be dwelled on that. That's the biggest thing I would say that was annoying early on, but it's something that I think everyone who does things like this deals with. So
I think that's something that anyone who ends up being successful at whatever field they're in, you learn that you get told no for a reason usually, because whatever that situation was, something wasn't right about it for you in that moment. And usually, because I am a little bit older than you and you might have learned this already, but a lot of the times you look back and you're like, oh, thank God that didn't actually happen for me, because if it did, I never would have done this, or where would I have been, or you know what I'm saying? So, and I think you said you're 24. Yep. And having gotten this far and learned all that stuff already, you're ahead of a lot of people your own age who are, you know, going to be spinning a little bit, trying to just do the thing. You're already doing the thing. That's half the battle, you know? So I love that answer, that learning to hear no and accept it as not a personal attack. I think in life, though, that's just important, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to make you say a favorite because I know people I don't want to be divisive with an interview, but regarding your guests, do you have any moments that really stick out to you as oh, that was really cool, I learned something really neat from that person?
Yeah, well, if I can tie it back into Sailor Moon, it wasn't too long ago, I got to be the first person to interview Steven Bednarski, who was the original voice of Fiore and Yuichiro.
Ooh. Yeah.
And he doesn't even
That's cool.
He doesn't even do acting anymore. He became a historian for I don't want to say it because I don't want to mess it up if I don't remember. But yeah, he's a really super intelligent historian and college teacher now, and he had never done a interview before about it, and I know people are divided about this, kind of like what you said, but I always thought that his performance as Fiore in the original dub of the R movie was really good for what it was.
For the time period when it was done, especially too, I think if you watch the R movie, there is a lot of what we call like coded LGBT messaging in it, you know? And I don't even think that in the Japanese version, it was open at that time. I think they just never said anything, right? Between like Fiore and Mamore, or I can never say his Japanese name right. But, and so having to take a role like that, I think, and try to do it justice where, okay, it's being put through the filter of, I'm doing this for an audience of children, right. But I can probably, he as an adult probably knew the intention, right? Like, he's older and wiser than we were at that time. So how do I take that and make it believable for the way this character is animated in the story, but then still I think it's a tightrope walk really to do characters like that. And like you said, I think he did a great job with it for the constraints that were placed on you and or whoever, you know, in that time period.
Yeah.
What did you learn from him? Do you have any stories like from that interview? One thing you remember?
Well, he didn't really. He honestly remembered more about Yuichiro or Chad than he did Fiore. But I did. Yeah, after I reminded him more about Fiore, he just remembered. He did remember keying in on that and being like, "Yo, I can tell that even though the way that we're recording this is there's more to this than just, you know, wanting to be friends after all these years again."
Yeah. You don't show up with flowers like that. Just wanting to be friends. Sailor Moon R movie was so much fun. Okay, so let's see. Some miscellaneous stuff. Oh, I actually want to talk about the episode a little bit. This week is going to be episode 5.
Okay.
Which version of it were you able to watch?
I watched the Japanese subtitled.
Okay. And I'm assuming that you have. Oh, 1 second. I think I'm back. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Hello? Okay, cool. I got a call. Anyway, sorry, what were we just starting to talk about again?
The episode 5.
Oh, right. So have you seen this one before, or you probably have, right?
Yeah.
What is just general impression of this one compared to most other episodes? Let's just say from season 1.
It's pretty bad.
It's not the best. When I just did my reaction earlier today, one of the things I noted about it was I think that I'm picking up on the quote Negaverse formula a little more now, which seems to be like everything in life there, you know how there's kind of balance or a price, right? If you have a pet, the trade-off is you have to clean up after that pet. Like if you want to have an expensive item, you have to pay a lot of money for it, whatever. They find something and then they take the price out, but then the real price is that the Negaverse is like ruining your life and taking all your energy or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. But regarding why I think they cut this one out from the original dub, I've noticed this is the second one that was cut out that I watched recently. I think they took the ones out where the kids were being like the biggest assholes. Do you know what I'm saying? Why do you think that was, just from your opinion?
Well, especially considering that it was shown or it was done for Canadian audiences, and that's way more strict than even the US is, especially back then. I think that's probably why.
Okay, so that's something I think a lot of people might not know still, is that this was originally dubbed by, like, DiC is a Canadian company, correct? Is it still owned and based in Canada today?
I don't know what the status of it is today, but obviously, yeah, back then it was Canadian.
Yeah, and back then there were, probably now still too, there are totally different rules regarding like what can and can't be shown and said on television. So that's a good note about that. I also think just maybe why they wouldn't want that on Canadian television. It seems like I think this was probably showing what actual misbehaving students sort of did in Japan at the time, but at a heightened level. Does that make sense? Because I've had some friends who went and taught English there, and they said that like I would say the misbehavior is more physical there, but
Yep.
not in a like you're getting harmed kind of way. It's more like they're more likely to like prod you or poke you or something than to say a rude word or whatever. And so I think they took a lot of that out because they didn't want that getting in, like kids seeing that and being like, oh, that's fine, I can do that to my teachers. I don't know that that worked, but I think that might have been their intention behind it. I always think that's interesting too, is looking at the dub and trying to figure out why did they cut this, why did they leave this in, what did they and so do you think most of it was, do you think there was more intention of protecting kids, or was it more we don't want to be sued kind of?
Mm, I think it was honestly the former, because I don't think it was that bad content wise in that aspect.
I agree, yeah. And I think that at the time, at least watching it as a kid, that was frustrating. But
Mhm.
even though I don't think that the execution of it was necessarily perfect, as an adult, I kind of appreciate the intention a little bit, being like, because I think a lot of people kind of really rush to quote grow up, and then but they don't even know what that really means or what that looks like.
Yeah.
And that can be almost painful or dangerous, I think. And there is a little bit of wisdom in wanting kids to just be kids, for a while, and not have to have all of, for example, like when with COVID, I'm an educator, and I've seen how those our students, like the children in America, watched all the adults who they're supposed to trust us, that we know what we're doing, right? We're teaching them about the world. Their parents are teaching them how to be who they are. And nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what to do. Like, people were fighting over everything. They saw the whole world go crazy. And now they're like, well, we don't trust anybody,
Mhm.
And it's kind of, you kind of can't blame them after that either. But I don't want to, focus on COVID crazy stuff too much. But I do think there is a little bit of like, when I watch old stuff like this, I wish this was still out there a little more. This intention of we actually should care that these kids are growing up too fast now, and they are stressed out to the point where they're getting hit by depression younger and younger and younger every year.
Right.
But anyway, so you said you got into doing your interviews and stuff. Because I'm going to leave this episode discussion, I think, this behind, because like you said, it's not the greatest episode. Was there any points you wanted to make about it before we move on, actually?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was really ironic that when we first connected that you were mentioning it either being episode 5 or episode 6, because you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at it really, but episode 5 was the very first episode that Ikuko Ito did character design on.
Oh, interesting. I even commented everything looks really sharp in this when I was doing the watch through, and I thought it was because I was watching on Hulu, which, I mean, maybe that's part of it, but that does make sense. I'm going to start paying more attention as I do, the rest of the podcast, and see if I can pick out her scenes a little more, because that's going to be something fun to look for.
Yeah, if you you can easily look up there's a number of outlets you can look up on, but not just for Sailor Moon, but for any anime. You can go through and see when it says an animation director and then it lists the episode and their name, then that episode of whatever anime is in their art style. So you can just easily go through and pick it out. Yeah.
That's really cool. By the way, because before I forget, I wanted to ask earlier, how many cells do you have total now?
Well, in general, I mean, speaking of cells, I just have 3, but sketch sets or sketches, I have, I don't know, about 30, yeah, 30 either sets. Most of them are sets, 30 sets are individual sketches.
Okay. And are the sets are easier to get, or I guess because it's been so long since they stopped using cells, those would be really rare now, right?
It just, yeah, I mean, it's all context and it all depends on what you're looking for. Ito is, especially nowadays with how crazy the market is for Sailor Moon, Ito is the most desirable for what collectors want. I was lucky enough, like the one that I showed you earlier, I got that from a private Japanese seller who got that. They got all their stuff like 20 years ago, and he was nice enough that he sold that for a really, really amazing price in today's market. And I can show you the other stuff because I pulled it out.
Yeah.
These are really fun. These are from episode 159. That's Ray. And
I recognized her eye right away.
This is Ami.
So I see some stuff on her. Is there like, what's going on around her eyes and on the bridge of her nose? Is that tiny labels?
Yeah, those are all pointers for what people who make the cell, what they should do.
Oh, is it like color by number kind of?
Yeah, well, because the thing that it's pointing to is her sweat drop going down her face.
Oh.
So that's
I'm talking about around her eyes, there's all these little
things. Yeah. Those are I think those are the kinds of paint to use.
Oh, that's really cool. So this is like an instructional thing for who's making the cell then, right?
Yeah. And then obviously being from Super S, I mean, you can knowing Ito's art style, I mean, she was fully developed by that point. So everything that she did, as you can see, is just amazing.
Yeah. And Super S, I want to say, is the first, well, I guess in her last season, but Sailor Mercury, she's always been one of my favorites. And her hair specifically, I think in the beginning, sometimes they struggled with like how to animate movement into it. You know what I'm saying? And I think by season 4, they were really getting a good handle on it. Because I remember in Super S distinctly thinking they had her hair down much better by that point. And then, those are really cool. Who's that?
That's Makoto from the same episode.
Oh, she looks so cool. And so that, say her name again for me one more time.
Makoto.
No, the artist.
Oh, Ikuko Ito.
Ikuko Ito. She actually put her hand on that page, right? Like that you purchased?
Yep, all of the stuff I've showed you, all of the yellow pages, and in the three that I just showed you, she drew everything in those sets. But in the first one I showed you, she just drew the yellow ones only. But yeah, in the 3 from episode 159, I was lucky enough there that she drew every single page in all of those sets.
That's really, really cool. She's so talented, and I'm glad that we can still talk about her today and celebrate art that she made 2 decades ago as if it's brand new.
Yeah.
Is she working on anything at the moment? Does she still do animation?
Yeah, she still actively works in the industry.
What are some other projects that people might know that she's done?
Well, after Sailor Moon, or besides Sailor Moon, she's known for doing lead character design on Magic Users Club, Princess Tutu, Asate no Hoko, Somali and the Forest Spirit. That's probably her most recent work. That was just like a couple years ago.
Is that a series or a like a movie? What do they call it? OVA?
Oh, Somali. No, that's a series.
Okay.
So those are some of her other most well-known works.
It sounds like she does a lot of the magical girl genre type stuff. Speaking of that genre in general, Sailor Moon, we know, isn't technically the first magical girl, but it is kind of the standard for that genre. Yeah. What for you, if you had to choose something, would be your second to Sailor Moon?
Honestly, I guess probably.
And that is going to be where we have to cut the episode off today. We are just getting up to about an hour. I know that's a long episode as far as podcast goes, so I am so happy if you guys are still listening. And if you want to hear the rest of the interview, you're going to have to tune in next week, or check out our YouTube, where we will eventually be posting the video interview. You won't get to see my face just yet. I'm not comfortable showing you guys, but you do get to see Chris in the interview video. So take a look for that, or take a look at our YouTube for that, Sunshine Farm Collectibles on YouTube. And let's hit it with the outro. Peace.
To support Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast, you can
subscribe to Moonstar and leave a 5-star review wherever you listen. Subscribe to our creator and sponsor, Sunshine Farm Collectibles. You can find us FC on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Just search Sunshine Farm Collectibles, and you'll find us. Donate by going to www.sunshinefarmcollectibles.com and clicking the donation button. Most importantly, keep on listening. Now, let's transform. We'll be right back.